Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronia, and in today's video we're going to be looking at our budget results. So if you are new to my channel, I tend to look at this at the end of the month, and I also tend to do a video where we actually set the budget at the beginning of the month. So if you want to see how we set our budget for the month of March, definitely check that out if you haven't already. I will link it up here for you and in the description below. But in today's video we're going to look at how we did in the month of March, and March was a really interesting month because prices were definitely increasing this month. So I'm really looking forward to diving into the numbers and seeing the difference between what we actually predicted versus how much we ended up spending overall. Plus, I wanted to throw in a quick reminder that I'm actually going to be doing a free live training next Tuesday, the 29th of March, and it's all going to be about saving money, how to consistently stick to your budget if that's something that you've struggled with before. So make sure you do sign up for that if you haven't already. I will link it up here for you and in the description below, and I can't wait to see you there. So let's dive deep into the numbers. And in case you are interested, this is actually my own budget template that I made, and if you would like the same, you can of course get that too. So it comes with a net worth statement, a sinking funds calculator, and then you have the choice between a monthly budget template or a weekly budget template. So of course those will be linked in the description below for you. But in terms of the first area, so looking at the income, I don't want to dwell on that too much because I did talk about that when we were setting the budget for March. But in terms of our income, most of it comes from my husband's salary. I'm currently on a career break, so at the moment I don't have a 9-to-5 job. I do pull like some money from my business, but it's not too much. And then also we had an area for sinking funds because we wanted to prepare for sinking funds for this year. And so if you want to learn a bit more about our income, I did mention that in our March budget update video, so make sure you do check that out if you would like more information. So again, when it comes to savings and investments, that was pretty much paid out because we do prioritize that, and so 75 ended up going towards my husband's stocks and shares ISA, and that's just how we invest in the stock market. We haven't necessarily been investing and saving as much, number one because I quit my job, but also number two, when it comes to money I make in my business, I tend to reinvest it directly through things like coaching programs, and I do that separately from my business. So if you're a bit nosy and you want to know how much I'm actually investing in coaching programs, because I don't show it on the budget, this month I ended up investing about £925. So actually if you include that plus Yinka's stocks and shares ISA, you're looking at about 1,000 that we ended up investing this month. Then of course when it comes to essential bills, that is also a priority that we tend to make because we always want to pay our bills. So pretty much everything was paid out. We have started getting letters in terms of how our bills are going to change, particularly when it comes to gas and electricity. So I will be interested to see exactly how much we may end up paying over the next few months, but at the moment the numbers are pretty much the same. And of course tithes, giving and charity again is a big thing for us, so we will always give a proportion of our income no matter what, and essentially that was also paid out. The same thing with sinking funds. So if you're not sure what sinking funds are, they're essentially just expenses that you may want to save up for over time. So rather than just waiting for that expense to be paid out during the month, what you would essentially be doing is just saving up over a few months or weeks, however you want to do it, over time, just to make your life a bit easier. And I do have a video all about sinking funds too if you haven't watched that already, so I will link it up here for you and in the description below. But of course when it came to sinking funds, that was pretty much all paid out. So this month we put money into our dentist. We also set aside money for my husband's work registration as well, and then we also set money aside for rugby for Yinka because that's also something that he does in his spare time. So about 200 going towards sinking funds. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up as it really does help to support the channel. Plus I'm sure you know it's free. Now next up, let's talk about the interesting stuff, which is the spending category. So I have got my MONZO app open so that I can see exactly how much we ended up spending. And for those of you who are interested, I use MONZO, which is a banking app. So whenever I do these videos and you see screenshots popping up on the screen, it's actually taken from MONZO. So if you are interested in MONZO, then I'll be sure to leave a referral link in my description below. So when it comes to spending, in terms of petrol, this is the one that actually surprised me the most. So we set a budget for 120 for petrol, especially because, you know, petrol prices are not cheap these days. They have been increasing, and so we wanted to be best prepared for that. But in terms of petrol, I was actually very surprised because we only ended up spending £59 on petrol. So that is pretty much less than half than we budgeted for. It might be because my husband now has a new job and he's not driving as much, and obviously I now do things at home, so I don't really need the car very often. But I was very surprised that we pretty much topped it up the one time, and you will see through our budget that because we didn't end up spending much on petrol, we ended up spending that money on other things. So let's talk about that in a bit more detail. So next up, when it comes to groceries, now groceries is the interesting one because we originally budgeted £139 for groceries, and that was because we typically spend around £34 a week. Now, even though prices had been increasing before in February, we didn't necessarily feel it, so we were still pretty much on budget. However, when it comes to March, we definitely felt it, and we definitely went over on our food budget as well. And obviously, if you follow me on Instagram, then you would know that already because I was giving you guys updates in terms of how much we were spending during the week. So in terms of our groceries, obviously we budgeted for 139, but we ended up spending £168. So that's about £29 over. And if I divide that by the 4 weeks, that's about £42 a week rather than the estimated 34. Now, part of that was due to the first 2 weeks, we actually ended up buying more things than usual. We bought like drinks and things, which we wouldn't normally do. So that led to some of the increase. But I think genuinely, because food prices had been increasing, that also had an impact on how much we were spending overall. Because during the last 2 weeks of the month, we did a normal shop where it wasn't actually that much, and we just bought normal things, and we would usually probably spend between 30 to 34, and we were literally spending like 37, 38 pounds on that food shop. So that's when I knew that food prices definitely increased, and so that's definitely going to be reflected on our next budget, because what we don't want to do is keep the same amount knowing that food prices are obviously increasing, because otherwise we're going to end up having less food, and we personally don't want that. So in terms of the total, about £29 over. It's not horrendous in my opinion, it's actually not too bad, but still a really interesting change, and now we're really starting to see that food prices are increasing. So yeah, we'll definitely have to have a think about next month's budget. Then next up, when it comes to toiletries, so we originally budgeted 30 for toiletries, and we ended up spending £30 for toiletries, which was great. I genuinely thought that we were going to go over because we did have a few things to buy this month, but luckily we were able to stick to the 30. So we haven't necessarily seen prices increasing in that area as such. It's more so the groceries. So I think we'll just need to discuss in terms of whether we want to keep to the 30 for next month, but at the moment prices still seem to be okay. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. And then next up, of course, we had our own spending. So as I've mentioned before, this is kind of like our fun money. We can just spend it on whatever we like. We don't need to question each other or anything. And so in terms of my own spending, I pretty much spent the whole thing. I have about £4 left in terms of my spending, so I might end up just adding that to my pennies jar, or maybe I'll add it to like a sinking fund. I mean, it's £4, so I'm not sure, but you know, all good. It's nice to have a few pounds left over sometimes. In terms of Yinka spending, I mean, I have no idea. I assume he spent it, but you never know. So I'm very happy regardless in that area. And then after that, we have date night. So if you did watch my budget update for March, you would know that we actually increased the amount that we wanted to put towards date night. It wasn't necessarily because food prices were increasing. It was more so because I really wanted to go to a certain restaurant, and I kind of knew what the prices were like for that restaurant. So that's really the main reason why we decided to increase the budget. And originally we did end up sticking to the £80 budget. I think we ended up spending about £76. However, when it got to the end of the month, we obviously realized that we had quite a lot of money left over because of petrol. So even though our groceries budget had increased, because we didn't end up spending so much on petrol, it meant that we actually had a few pounds over, and so we ended up spending it on, of course, eating out. And by that I mean we ended up spending it on some takeaways. In our budget, we just categorize it all as date night if we're spending it together. And so in terms of date night, we ended up spending £109 on date night. So yeah, because we had money left over from petrol, we thought, why not spend it on a cheeky takeaway? And that's exactly what we did. And then after that, when it comes to personal care, again, we did set a budget for £44, and we ended up spending £44 for personal care. So that was all good. And then when it came to miscellaneous, so we did have a budget for £10 in miscellaneous, but we only ended up spending £5 when it came to miscellaneous. miscellaneous. And then after that, of course, there is a direct debit towards my gym membership because I now pay monthly, and at the moment my husband has an annual membership. So for my membership, we currently pay £21.99. So of course that was all paid out, and then the rest of the money was just put into our pennies jar. So we did also still have a few pounds left over for the month, which was great. So we probably will carry it over to the next month unless we decide to get another cheeky takeaway. But yeah, in terms of our spending, actually wasn't too bad. We were still able to keep in budget overall, but obviously there were some areas where we went over budget and some areas where we went under budget. But I think overall we did okay for this month. And if you do feel like you may need further support when it comes to just genuinely sticking to your budget or being able to save and invest your money, then definitely check out my one-to-one coaching program, because I can essentially help you with all of that. So of course, if you are interested, you can book a free interest call with me. I'll link more information up here for you and in the description below. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, how did your budget go for the month of March? I do post every Tuesday and Friday, and remember, I am doing a free live training on Tuesday the 29th of March, so I hope to see you there. And of course, I will have another video out on Tuesday too, so I will see you guys on Tuesday.